Hello, my dears. This is Annette of AnnetteLeonard.com, back again with Chronic Wellness. Thanks so much for joining me. I am continuing my short series about thrush, the really unpleasant, unfortunate mouth fungus that can befall those of us with compromised immune systems in really uncomfortable ways. So in my last video, I talked about how one gets thrush and how it affects you when you are unlucky enough to have it. And today I'm going to talk about sort of what to do, how to manage when you get it. And I'll just mention for those of you who are watching on video that I am struggling with more than average migraine pain at this point in the day. So I am wearing my shades, not just to look cool, but also to manage my photophobia. So when I am starting to get thrush, I notice that I crave sweets, which is really an interesting thing because yeast feeds on sugar. So I think it's fascinating that then I get a hankering, I get a desire for sweets when that is not what's optimal for the conditions of feeding the yeast. And most specifically, what I start really craving is ice cream. And I mean, like, who doesn't like ice cream? But ice cream doesn't really feature in my world in general. So it's a real, like, alarm bells for me when I'm like, oh my gosh, I could just go to Dairy Queen and eat soft serve all day. Oh, I might be getting thrush. And so then each time I get thrush, I find myself sort of thrown once again by like, what do I eat? And the reality is that anything that converts immediately to sugar is going to increase the experience of pain and raw and burning and increase the immediacy of thrush in my mouth. Now, it's interesting. I was just talking to my physician about this, and she said, well, no, unless you're diabetic, you don't really have to worry about the sugar aspect of your diet. And I said, I don't see how that's true because it's feeding the thrush that's in my mouth. And she was like, yeah, that's interesting. I mean, I guess I was thinking more about sort of vaginal yeast infections and yeast in other places. But yeah, if it's in your mouth, it's touching what you're eating, and maybe it does get worse by eating sugars. And I thought, I know it gets worse because it feels worse. So if I put sugar on my tongue, as soon as I swallow, my tongue burns worse, and the coating shortly thereafter gets thicker. And so that means rice is out, crackers are out, breads are out, potatoes are out. Any of those simple starches, no good. And so here are my go-tos for when I have thrush. And let me preface this by saying that I used to be a vegetarian. I no longer am. And I would find it extraordinarily difficult during times of thrush to maintain a vegetarian diet. Dairy feeds the yeast. And so even though some people will say, eat yogurt because it's probiotic, the dairy and the sugars in yogurt for me outweigh any benefit of the acidophilus and the other probiotics in yogurt. So I would say if you want probiotics, take either a probiotic pill or help yourself to kefir water. which is different than the kefir that is like kind of a liquidy yogurt. They actually have kefir water that then doesn't have any dairy in it and very little sugar. So if you want to drink your probiotic, do it that way. And then concentrate on proteins like eggs, meat. I eat a fair bit of tuna, and I can even tolerate mixing it with, some mayonnaise, so like a tuna salad. Nuts are a good way to go. Any of the vegetables that are of the brassicas or cuneiform varieties, so that would be cauliflower, broccoli, turnips, things like Brussels sprouts and cabbage. I drink a fair bit of bone broth or just broths of almost any variety. Low sugar fruits, kind of, but again, those sugars I really try to steer clear of. And I notice that I crave things that are acidic, like lemon, to try to clear that coating on my tongue. And we have a juicer, and I've discovered that for me, juicing lemon and ginger together into a potent little shot and then mixing that with either water or sparkling water is a really refreshing drink for me. And both apple cider vinegar and lemon juice and salt water and baking soda water are all things that are homeopathic remedies for gargling or swishing with while you do have thrush. And so for me, when I get thrush, I immediately put lemons and ginger on the shopping list. We juice them, and I drink a watered down version of lemon and ginger water while I have thrush. So those are some of the remedies. I would say if you are going to eat sugary foods, I would really recommend immediately swishing at the very least, if not fully brushing when you are done, and then using the treatment that you have pharmaceutically once you're done. And so that's usually either chlortrimetazole lozenges or nystatin liquid. And both of those then are remaining in your mouth for ideally kind of 3 to 5 minutes while they work their magic. And then it's sort of 4 times a day at least. And when I'm using nystatin liquid, I try to do it even more often than that. And with the liquid, even more so than the lozenges, I hold it in my mouth for as long as I can. And the instructions are written sometimes so that you hold it and then spit. Sometimes you hold it and then swallow, depending on where your yeast infection is, your thrush infection is, how far down your throat it might have gotten. And it's unpleasant. It's not tasty. And yet I'm eager to be done with it. So it's certainly worth doing. And then, as I said in my last video, once you find that the thrush has passed, changing out your toothbrush, always a good idea just to not, if it stays moist, your toothbrush, run the risk of recontaminating yourself if you're still at risk and your immune system is still suppressed of continuing to give yourself that extra dose of candida. So that's it. Those are my pro tips. And in part, I'm recording this video for myself because each time I get kind of knocked back by thrush, it's usually at a time where I've just been sick and that's why I'm on antibiotics, or it's opportunist and it comes for me when, I'm in the middle of a GI situation and I am so clouded in my thinking that I can hardly remember what to put in my mouth. And so I'm making this video for me as well as you. And if you have other tips or things that have worked for you, I'd want to hear about it. So uh, shoot me a comment, find me over on Instagram at the Annette Leonard, or sound off on my website. Let me know what you are doing for thrush, if you've ever had it, what's worked for you. All right. Thanks for joining me. As ever, I'm so grateful to spend some time together. If you haven't subscribed, I'd be grateful if you did. And if you know anybody who these videos would be useful for, please forward them the link. Until we are together again, thank you so much for being here, and be well.